Hello, I'm Nari McDiarmid for miningnews.net and Mining Journal, and I'd like to welcome Mike Ralston, the Chief Executive of Blencowe Resources, which has got some game-changing news. But Mike, before we delve into those details, for anyone yet to come across Blencowe, can you please provide an outline of the company and your flagship project?
Sure, Nari. We acquired the Orom-Cross project in Blencowe Resources approximately 4 years ago. We're a London-listed company. Our ticker is BRES. And we have spent the last 4 years drilling out an extensive JORC resource, followed by a scoping study, followed by a pre-feasibility study last year, which was very successful. We moved into DFS stage this year, and we're obviously moving ahead pretty quickly towards getting it to a decision to mine. So making good progress. We've got a world-class graphite project in Uganda, in East Africa, and we're very excited about the progress we've made and where we're going.
Well, in terms of keeping the momentum with that progress, your big news is the announced $5 million grant from the US government's Development Finance Corporation that's going to help you progress Orom-Cross. What are the highlights of this grant?
Yeah, we're very excited, obviously. It's been a bit of work to get here, but having the DFC as our partner, who are in effect a proxy for the US government, is a huge game-changing moment for us. The grant is a $5 million grant, technical assistance grant it's called, in order to provide funding to assist us with completing the definitive feasibility study. So they're going to provide what will ultimately be approximately half of the DFS costs, and ultimately we'll end up putting in the rest of that money. It's the way it works in terms of the process is that we have to achieve milestones and then they put in money. So we don't have to match them in any way. It's just a question of hitting DFS milestones, collecting their money, and obviously they want to see us get to the end game. And ultimately, obviously, we're going to get there around about the end of next year. So very exciting. We don't have to repay it. It's a grant. The money only gets repaid if we take the project into production ahead. And the only other term of any significance is that they are the lead mandated partner to provide the full funding for the project to go into production, which is fantastic because that's exactly what we want from them going forward. So they bring credibility, and they bring obviously a huge $15 billion balance sheet in order to be able to help us take this project going forward.
Well, Mike, you just touched on the prospect of full project funding, which is hugely significant for Blencowe. Can you elaborate on that a little further?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge for most mining projects in general, graphite probably even more so, is funding your project, getting it into production. It's always the challenge. I guess you go out there and you find something and you develop it, but putting the money together to actually take it into implementation phase is always a tough ask. So having a strategic partner of this caliber ready to work with us to take it forward is huge. And as I said a moment ago, they've got a significant fund with a big balance sheet able to do that, either as debt or equity. And we're going to be working very closely with them over the next couple of months to shape that project funding solution so that we can try and put it in place as quickly as possible in parallel to all the other DFS work that's going on.
Well, in terms of the DFS, Mike, I understand with this grant, you can now consider a bigger project than what was envisaged with the pre-feasibility study last year. And that already had some pretty robust numbers in it. You were looking at production of 100,000 tonnes per annum concentrate. The post-tax internal rate of return was 49%, so fairly solid. What areas are you looking to scale up in the DFS?
Yeah, when we did the PFS, I think one of our major constraints was capital. So we were looking to build a smaller project and then develop it and utilize the money that we made within Orom-Cross to obviously expand. If we've got a project partner that has the ability to fund us immediately into a larger scale production plan, that's probably where we'll look to go. So ideally, we'd like to double our initial production from 50 up to 100,000 tons and ultimately take it up to 200,000 or even 250,000 tons of concentrate. So that's huge, obviously. With the money that we're getting from the DFC, we'll do further JORC resource drilling. So we'll extend our JORC resource and ultimately add life of mine, which is also going to obviously add to the value in the project. And it will also allow us to do these higher production levels. But probably the most significant addition which we're looking at is to consider building a downstream SPG plant in country. That's a spheronized purified graphite plant where you taking the 96-97% concentrate and upgrading it to 99.95% battery ready uncoated anode product. So if we can do that, we're taking roughly $700 per ton concentrate product in country, and we're turning it into approximately $2,500 per ton product before shipping it out. It not only gets us better project commercial results, but it also means a smaller volume of what we're actually transporting, so lower logistics costs. So there's a lot of big key advantages that this money that we can utilize with the partnership of the DFC and ultimately look to build a much bigger project and far greater returns than we did. And this will all come through over the next 12 months as we complete the DFS. And we're very excited about where this takes the project going forward.
Well, Mike, if we could take a brief look at the graphite market, there's obviously pressure at the moment from the synthetic sector. Where do you see demand headed for natural flake graphite?
Yeah, I think you've got to take a step back. Graphite in general is going to have considerably higher demand going forward. And then the question becomes, does that demand fall into the synthetic graphite or does it fall into the natural flake, which is what we've got? And I think the answer is it's going to be both. There is definitely a need for synthetic graphite, and the best product that the OEMs are making in terms of batteries requires a considerable amount of synthetic product. So to consider that one or the other is going to replace the other altogether is just not going to happen. So they're both going to grow together, but the market is growing so fast in this regard for batteries in particular that there's plenty of space for additional supply of product from the natural sector, which is what we're in. And I think the slight shift will be perhaps that synthetic will go down as a percentage of the market over time. But for now, it's sort of holding firm around about 60%. So I think going forward, there's huge demand coming, and we're seeing that in terms of the offtake interest in terms of what we've discussed in Asia in particular at the moment. There's huge interest for partners to come and work with us and ultimately move that towards offtake contracts. So yeah, exciting times to be in the sector for sure.
There's a lot happening behind the scenes there, Mike, and you're aiming for the decision to mine before the end of next year, ideally. In the meantime, what catalysts should investors keep an eye out for?
Yeah, well, obviously we're going through this whole definitive feasibility stage or study, and there's going to be a lot of work going on the ground and everywhere associated with that, with environmental work, with infrastructure work, and everything that takes bringing a mine into production. But the two sort of key factors, I guess, that are really going to play the biggest role are firstly the funding, and we've talked about that before in terms of the role that DFC can play as the lead partner to help us secure a funding solution. And I'll be working on that in parallel to all the other work that's going on, and obviously reporting to the market as we make progress. And then on the other hand, it's all about offtake contracts, ultimately finding the partners that we want to sell product into to ensure that if we are going to start at a considerable quantity of concentrate and ultimately SPG product that gets sold into the market, that we have binding contracts with the absolute best partners. And that work is underway. We've got pre-qualification happening in China at the moment. We've made the market very aware of this. It's going extremely well. And ultimately, we're going to be doing more and more of that work so that we can really bring on board the fact that, well, we believe we've got one of the best concentrates in the market. And we obviously want to showcase that to all the OEMs so that they can see it and go through that qualification process so that ultimately we'll end up in offtake contracts. So all of that work's happening all together in parallel. And it's going to be a very busy year, but quite exciting. And by the end of the next year, as you say, we want to have all of that completed within a DFS and have a decision to mine thereafter. So it's a big journey for us over the next 12 months. And I think there's a lot of value to be added as we go through that process.
Well, Mike, thanks for taking the time to have a chat today.
Thank you very much for having me.